Hello, I am back with another video. So this one is a Q&A. I'd posted a bit of a Q&A thing on Instagram last week and asked if anybody had any questions for this video. So it's probably going to be a bit of a chatty one. We'll see where we get to. I've not looked at any of these questions in detail, so I'm just going to wing it and see how it goes. So one of the first ones which has stuck out to me is, what are the pros and cons of having two dogs? We want two, but hearing mixed reviews. So obviously I've got two dogs. If you don't know my dogs, this is Millie. Millie is snoozing and Lady over there. They're both very tired. So I feel like when we got our second dog, Lady, so they're both sisters, and we got Lady when she was like 13, 14 months old. And between making the decision to get her and actually getting her, it was about 2 weeks. And that was my 2 weeks to kind of prepare, do research, figure it out. And I would say when we first got Lady, because Lady is quite different to Millie, they're similar, but there's things that are very different about them. I did struggle. I struggled more just to kind of understand her, train her. Like I tried to train her like in the same ways as I trained Millie, sorry, and like those methods didn't really work, like things like luring her. And I think it's a bit more difficult because she was obviously older. I think getting a puppy would probably be a completely different scenario. But what I would say, I guess the pros are, it's like having two different dogs. Like there's so many like really cute, quirky like personality differences with them. I do think they really get on as well. And I don't know, there's like not much else to say about the pros. Like they both have their own kind of individual strengths and things that they're good at individually, and I do take them out a lot like separately. And yeah, I don't know, I just like having two dogs. So the cons, now I don't know if it's necessarily a con, maybe it is. I think it's finding people to look after your dogs. Having one dog and finding, family, friends to look after that dog when you go on holiday, I think is quite easy, or even, getting a dog sitter, things like that. Two dogs, I feel like is very different, and it's a lot to ask somebody to look after two dogs. So that's one challenge, I'd say. The other thing is taking them out together. Now that we've had Lady for, I think, almost 9 months, about 9-ish months, I definitely say that I'm a lot more comfortable taking them out together. But when I first got Lady, it felt like a bit of a challenge taking them both out together, especially when they were like Lady was very easily overwhelmed when we would take her out. Like as soon as we'd get to the field and turn the engine off, she would start barking like incessantly, and like it would just felt like a lot. And then I had Millie there as well, and yeah, things like that, like taking them both to a cafe, to a restaurant, it always felt a lot more challenging. And there was things that kind of like taking Millie to a cafe is completely fine, it's so easy, like she's really kind of used to those environments because we've been doing it since she was a puppy. And then adding Lady to the mix was like a completely different ball game. So things like that really kind of made me feel overwhelmed and anxious. So stuff like that is more difficult. Training them together as well. So we do a lot of gun dog training, and at the best of times I do wing it. I do have a trainer who obviously helps me, and I speak to a lot of people about gun dog training, but training one dog, I find not challenging, but it is difficult. Like it takes a lot of mental kind of brain power for me. And then two dogs, that is another challenge. So as well, like when I go out with them and try not to do as much training and just walk, I do find that they're both a bit more feral when they're together, like chasing each other, running around, like going a bit further than I would kind of want them to. And I'm constantly saying like here, like getting them to come a bit closer. And like until I've done some form of like training with them, like hunting a bit, or like doing a couple of retrieves, then they're like, okay, we'll walk near you now because we know, there's something going on here that's fun. But stuff like that I'd say is probably not a con, it's just a challenge, and it's just how you approach that. Like like to take Millie and Lady out separately a lot so I can focus on them one-on-one. I'm taking them more out together now and doing training together, where in the past I wouldn't have done, because Lady really struggled. Honestly, with anything I asked her to do outside, she really struggled. For us in the beginning with Lady, it was more about kind of having fun, seeing where she was at. Like her recall was really good, not really good around birds, squirrels, stuff like that, but like it was just getting to know what she was like and also building that bond with her and trying to have fun. So now that we're kind of past that, and we've done a lot of training, like a lot of our training, I'm really like going on a tangent here, a lot of our training was in less stimulating environments. I did so much stuff at home, in the hallways, like right outside the flat, things like that, and we've gradually built it up to be able to do stuff on the field. And there's even things that we've only just started doing on the field, like her heel work and things like that. So yeah, really like getting into training with her now as well, and kind of adding Millie into the mix. So, but yeah, sometimes that can just be, it feels like a lot for me. So I don't know, I think that's all the pros and cons. Obviously you've got your basic stuff, like it's more expensive having 2 dogs, you know, you're paying more for your pet insurance. Like we have a pet plan with our vets, so that's like double the cost. You pay more for food, treats, stuff like that, and it just takes up more time, but I don't mind that. Like I am quite happy to spend all my time with my dogs. So yeah, just things like that. Right, let's see what else there is. How did you teach Millie and Lady to hug? I love the girl so much. That's cute. So this one, I think I started this like not long after we'd got Lady. Honestly, I would ask her to sit, and she would sit, and then she'd lie down, and then she'd sit, and like she'd walk backwards. Like she couldn't sit still. So I did a lot of work on like stillness with her, like after speaking to our trainer. So then once I'd got her to be able to sit still, I'd ask her to sit and I would feed her. At the same time, I would say to Millie, because Millie knows paws up means put your front 2 paws onto a surface. So I train that with like a stool, or even like on the edge of the couch, or I could say to her paws up and she'll put her paws on my knees. So I would say to Millie, paws up, and I would lure her on top of Lady, and she'd just put her paws up on top of Lady, and it's like she's hugging her. So Millie has nailed that. Obviously sometimes she does trample on Lady when she's a bit too excited, but when she gets it right, it's very cute. I've tried to do this with Lady. I'm not going to try it now because Lady's just zonked out. Lady refuses to jump on Millie. I've tried saying up. Lady knows paws up as well. I've tried to say up, like all sorts. I've lured her with all sorts of treats, like pate, her Bico treats, her year's treats, like chicken. She refuses to jump up onto Millie, and I think it's probably because Millie's like a little bit of a devil, and I don't know if Lady thinks that Millie will try and bite her head off if she puts her paws up, but yeah. So right, next question. Did you crate train? Yes, I did. Lady was already crate trained when we got her. She is fantastic in her crate. The only time Lady whines in her crate is a few scenarios I've noticed. I mean, there's one scenario that I've noticed, but if they are in their crate in the, like, I don't know, late afternoon, and then Sam comes home from work and I don't let them out, she will start whining. Or if she's already out, Sam comes home and he's only been home for 5-10 minutes, and then I ask them to go into their crates, she will whine a little bit. But it's more just, I think, just for attention, because she wants to see Sam. Millie, however, Millie's really good in her crate. Say crate and she fucking bolts in. Lady recently has been a bit more hesitant about going in, and it's more at night. If Lady's on the bed and she's not even fast asleep, honestly, she could just be lay there. She loves being on our bed. And then you say crate, she'll look up at you and then just puts her head back down, and she's like, she's not interested. And well, there was one other question, sidetrack here. Someone asked where was it? If they listen to Sam as much as they listen to me. If Sam asks Lady to go into a crate at night, doesn't care. She will not listen to him. So I always have to tell her, Lady, crate. So recently with Lady, especially, I've been doing a lot of more crate training in the day, just to get her back to that point where she's like, fine, I'll go in. So yeah, and then at night, again, like the last couple of weeks, I've just been asking her, well, getting a treat and then saying crate, and then giving her the treat after she's gone into her crate, just so she's got a bit of motivation to go in there. I do not bribe. I don't put the treat in and then ask them to go in and then shut the door. No. Ask them to go in and then reward them for doing that and making that choice to go in. But yeah, she needs a bit of extra motivation with the food sometimes. But other than that, things like feeding them in their crate, like I still feed them in their crates a lot of the time, just to keep that like positive association. Like Millie is like, loves her crate. She's, even like if they've been on a long walk and we come back inside, the first thing they both do is just run straight into their crates, because they're like, okay, we're tired, we're done checking out, and they'll go to their crates. So yeah, but I'd say again, this is a long progression. Like with a lot of things that I train, I still reward them. Even sitting, like sometimes I'll say sit and I'll reward them for sitting. Like I don't train them something and then be like, okay, like Millie likes her crate now, done. Like I'll still give them treats for going into their crates and stuff like that. So it's still a process. But yeah, they're both good with their crates. I think I was going to mention actually, Millie, I've noticed mainly when she's been in season, and she's had 2 seasons now, when she's been in season and she's left in her crate, because I have cameras on them, Millie is not happy being left alone. So when it's her season, I try not to leave her alone, because she just, I don't know, she's a bit stressed. She just whines, and it's like she wants to get out of her crate even if we're not home. So I try not to leave her alone. Like on her 2nd season, I just didn't really leave her that much. Okay, what are the best things about each of the girls? 1 training and 1 personality. So we'll start with Millie Moose. Millie is just so fucking cute. So I've had Millie since she was a puppy, and she just has the funniest personality. And obviously we've had our TikTok and Instagram since Millie was a puppy, and I think a lot of people have like fallen in love with her like sassiness. She's a very sassy dog. She has this like resting bitch face, which I seem to capture a lot. But she's very loving. I would say she loves people. She's a bit anxious around people, but if she's comfortable with you, she will try and stick her tongue in your mouth. Like she's so loving. She just loves kisses. And then in terms of training wise, I would say she's very smart. I think it's because I've kind of worked with her since she was a puppy. I find her kind of quite easy to train, but I'm going to go into a negative now. I know this was a positive question. Millie thinks she knows best, and she's also very like, this is the word my trainer uses and I agree with it, like very highly strung. Like she just anticipates everything, and I really like, and obviously didn't really understand this until working with a trainer, but like I really have to be like 1 step ahead of her, or like try and do the opposite to what she thinks is going to happen. Like today, and I'm so annoyed with myself, but today we did some hunting when I took them out, and I threw her ball and she saw me throw it, which is like, oh, big red flags. And as soon as she saw that, the rest of like however long else we were getting to, like it was like 5 odd minutes, like the next time I asked her to find it or hunt for something, she was just looking, waiting to catch me throwing something again. Whereas Lady, like, obviously I don't want them to see me throwing something. Lady just gets her nose down. So onto Lady, that's one of the good things in terms of her training. I feel like she's quite fast and good at her like hunting, because I've been working on both of them on their hunting recently. Lady's very quick, but again, one of the negatives is when the environment is a bit too much for her, she can tip over the edge very easily. And then in terms of her personality, and I feel like I didn't really understand this with Lady in the first few weeks of having her, she is so needy. Like I can't even explain to you like how needy she is, like in the like cutest way. Like sometimes I'm working and she'll just like put her chin on my lap, and then I'll ask her to come up and she'll just straddle me and like just wants to be held, like just like a little baby. It's very cute. And then this is Millie's current situation. And then like in bed, oh my god, Lady's such a great like little spoon. She'll put her head on your pillow, and recently she's been doing this really annoying thing where she kind of makes her way like above your head, and she only does it to me. She just lays across my pillow, but she just loves a little cuddle. She's very, very sweet. Okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer all these questions because I'm at 16 minutes and I really can't be bothered like clipping this down and editing it. How do you start a manageable routine for training? So I would say that I struggle with routines. I struggle. And I do really love training them, and a lot of the time it's whatever pops up into my head, or I get really fixated on one thing, like hunting at the moment. Like I get really fixated on one thing and I just focus on that. But to be honest, I do other stuff. Like I say that, but like when I go out, I have at the moment quite a good, I think, routine, and I was going to post a Instagram and TikTok video about it. But one thing is working with a trainer, so looking at what your dogs need to work on. And for me, I do really enjoy gun dog stuff, and like one of my goals is to take them out beating, maybe in the next season. You know, I don't think it would be a full day of beating, but I'd like to just take them out, and I don't know, even if they just sit there and then I put them back in the car, like I really want to take them out. And like I kind of understand what's expected of the dogs. So when I take them out now, and like working with, like I recently met a couple, Charlotte and Garrett, so they like trial their dogs. They're like up here, like I'm probably not going to be like testing and trialing them. Like I'd love to test with one of them, or maybe a third dog that isn't so whiny and loud. But having something to aim for, like our goal is very loose, but I kind of know what I want from my dogs. And I think I've always known that with Millie, like not the gun dog stuff, but I've always known that I want a well-behaved dog that can, you know, walk nicely with me, that can, you know, I was taking Millie to the gym with me, that can sit on the tram with me, that I can take to cafes, restaurants. Now that's slightly shifted, obviously, with like the gun dog stuff and taking an interest in that. But I've always known loosely what I want from them, which takes a lot of training. So yeah, at the moment, what I was saying, our kind of current routine is we get to the field. If I'm taking them one-on-one, I'll just explain that because that's quite straightforward. I'll typically have Millie on the lead, or I'll let them out the car, and I really want them to kind of stay next to me in the car. So Millie stays on lead. Lady, if I ask her to get off the car, like off, I say off, out the car, she will sit nicely, and then I'll just go wee-wees. And a lot of this I take from people that I've been to meet a girl called Sophie, Spaniel Diaries on Instagram. And so Charlotte and Garrett, they're small Brooks gun dogs, and taking some tips from them and seeing what they do with their dogs, and obviously not trying to copy it, but it's obviously that's what I want how I want my dogs to be. I know they'll probably never be at that level, but so yeah, asking to jump out the car, and to be honest, I've always kind of done this anyway with Millie and Lady, is try to get them to a point where they eat. I want them to accept food, so I know that they're not like overstimulated. So I've always kind of done that with them, and they've always been like fine. So when we first got Lady, I think I mentioned it, we'd switch the engine off and she'd start barking. There's no one there, Millie's. She'd start barking. So it's taken a lot of work to get to the point where we park up, open the car door, and she's actually completely fine, taking food, she's calm. And then I'll just let them kind of wee, poo, whatever they need to do freely, and then I'll put them either back on the lead and walk to this like long piece, like patch of grass. Start off with a bit of hunting, do that for like 5-ish minutes. When I started doing the hunting exercises with them that Charlotte and Garrett gave me, I went a bit overboard. I was going for a bit too long, because I had to rein it in because it was not what they told me to do. I was just fucking smashing the hunting non-stop. So do 5 minutes of that, Sometimes not even 5 minutes. Like a lot of it I'm trying to ask them to sit and wait nicely, and then like ask them to hunt. And then I'll go and do some retrieving with them. And then this is where I kind of like change it. So it's not really a routine, but it's like whatever pops up in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, I think I'm going to work on their recall today or their stop whistle. So I don't know, I'll ask Millie to sit and I'll walk away, or I'll throw a dummy, I'll go and pick it up. And then I'll call them back to me and like use their whistle. Because although I would say they're quite well trained, there are definitely moments when they're like, they just ignore me. And it is because they are a little distracted. I don't know, if they've got their nose in a bush, sometimes I'm like, there's no point in even me like calling you back because you're probably going to ignore me. So it's taken a lot for me to kind of understand that. So that's the kind of stuff that I work with my other dog trainer with, Louise, Time for Dogs. So yeah, things like that, like they do sometimes ignore their recall whistle, and I'm like, just don't blow it, and wait for a moment where they're not distracted. Or sometimes I will say sit and they'll run. Or like yesterday, I asked Millie to sit next to me, and Lady was next to me. I threw a dummy and Millie just ran for it without being released. So there's still stuff like that I'm like, working on. So there's a little bit, so it's sometimes whatever happens in the session, I try not to do obviously too much with them. However, whatever we do, I kind of work around it. Like if something goes wrong, then I'm like, oh shit, that's really annoying. I'll just like pop Millie back on the lead because I'm like, I don't want her running off again, and I'll try and work from there and see what to do. But it's never, you know, an intense session. Like even when I do the retrieves with them, I'll probably throw it twice for each dog, and then I'll just let them run freely. I'm just like, okay, go do whatever you want, but obviously try and keep them kind of close. Oh my god, this is gonna be such a long video. So then, when did your cocker start chilling inside the home? This is a good question. So Millie, from my memory, what I would say is around like 8 months old. She would settle. If I was like sat on the sofa with her, she'd be chilled, she'd be fine. She'd settle inside her crate kind of after that first initial month or two puppy stage. Because I used to put her in her crate like if she was awake for more than an hour and a half, I'd be like, right, you need to go to your crate and have a nap. So I did a lot of enforced naps. But if I was sat down with her, she'd be pretty chill. If I was working, she'd sometimes start scratching the chair and I'm like, oh, you're so annoying. Time for a nap in your crate. To be honest, a lot of the time she bothered me, it's because she needed to go out for a wee. But basically, in my memory, it was like 8 months. And I did a lot of, with Millie, putting her on her lead. And this was around that time, like 7-8 months. And putting like a little bed next to where I was sitting and just saying place. And to be honest, we did place training when Millie was like 10 weeks old. Like that's when we had our first puppy trainer, and that's when I started doing place training with Millie, because I did place every time I took her out to a cafe with me, or every time I took her to the gym, which was quite often. I would say place, and she knew I'm in my bed now and not really going anywhere. So yeah, at home had to kind of reinforce that and just keep saying place and ask her to lay down, and then eventually 8-9 months, I think that was the moment where I was like, oh my god, she's actually chilled now. And don't get me wrong, there's obviously like, I don't know, every day's different, but now they just sleep all day. So little lady could not settle outside of her crate. That was one thing that her previous owners told us. They were like, she really struggles to settle outside of her crate. Look how good she is now. She is so chilled, and sometimes there are moments when she can be a bit restless. Like with Lady, what I would describe her as is like a toddler, and I can't remember who told me this, but someone was saying to me that before, when toddlers are tired, they have a little tantrum and they need to get this all out of their system and then they'll fall asleep type thing. Sometimes Lady does that. She'll be like a bit restless and a bit needy, like she wants scratches and she's just a bit irritating. But actually it's because she's tired, and I like to just work through those moments. I'm like, down, settle, and I'll just give her like scratches. But for the most part now, even when I'm working, when I'm at my desk, she is either in the bedroom on our bed or under my desk sleeping. She's really, really good now. And again, same thing that I did with Millie. I had her on a lead and I would close the door to the office, have a little settle mat and just give her food. I'd say down or like place and give her a treat for being on that mat consistently. And if she got to a point where she was like restless, didn't want to do it, this, that, the other, I'd just stick her in her crate. Because honestly, I know people say puppies sleep all day and they need a lot of sleep. They're 2 now and they sleep all day. Like, I don't think it ever really changes that much. Like, it's, so yeah, I'm really like pleased with how chilled they both are, but obviously it's taken a lot of work. Okay, we're at 27 minutes now. I don't know who's going to watch this, but we'll just carry on. Maybe I'll do one more question. Our cocker gets mouthy when exciting or doing training. Any suggestions? So obviously I'm not a dog trainer, but Lady was a little bit mouthy when we first got her, when she was excited. And I noticed this obviously whenever like Sam would come home or if I would come home, she would get mouthy, but she'd like try and nibble at your sleeves or your wrists, and then she would try and stick her head in any pockets, which she still does the pocket thing sometimes, not as much. She'd get mouthy, so anytime I came home, I would just grab a toy or a sock and shove it in her mouth. And in the beginning, she would just spit it out, and I'm like, come on, take the sock. And now she looks for objects to hold, which I'm like, great, like, I'm glad that you're channeling your excitement into something. If it's a shoe, whatever, so be it. But I'd rather her do that than nibble. In terms of during training, like, again, I'm not a dog trainer, but I would say if your dog's getting kind of mouthy during training, I don't know, like, it's hard to say because obviously I don't know what this dog is like, but if it was one of my dogs, I'd be like, do they actually want to do this? Like, are they frustrated? You know, so there's been, especially when Millie was a puppy, there was scenarios where I'd be trying to ask her to do something and she didn't really understand it. And what she would do is like jump up at me because she's like, I'm done, like, don't want to do this, but I didn't really understand that. She would jump up at me, and it was kind of like is it displacement? But yeah, she just wasn't feeling it, and I would be like, no, I don't want a hug, let's carry on, and she was so over it. But yeah, I don't know, I don't really know how to answer that second part of the question. What else have we got? Do you know what? I think I'm gonna wrap it up. Yeah, there's some similar questions about favourite things about the dogs. I think we're gonna wrap it up because we're almost at half an hour. So, Millie's up. Do you come up? Millie's just staring at me. What's up, girl? Do you come up? What's up, my girl? But yeah, thank you for your questions. I don't know if anyone's got through this far, then thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below because I'd love to answer them. I do need to post on here more often, but I post stories every day on Instagram. So if you don't follow us there, I'll put out all of our social stuff in the caption below, not on it. Should we see if Millie will say bye to everyone? Come on, my girl. Here she is, my girl. Millie, say bye. She's like, no, thank you. I don't want to say bye. She needs her ears brushing. She's got all sorts of stuff in her ears from our walk this morning, but she's been sleeping, so we've not done it yet. Lady's awake now. Right, anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!